Welcome to the Busy Guy Show. My name is Vince LoCascio, and I'm a busy guy. I've got a very busy guy here today, Gregg Horan. He's managing partner and director of operations for Gibsons Restaurant Group. He's opened 3 of the top grossing independent restaurants in the country. He's the father of 3 and coaches a travel baseball team. One busy guy. Greg?
Vince, how you doing?
Thank you for being here,
Thanks
sir.
for having me.
What is story you have to tell? So, director of operations, one of the best, probably the best independent restaurants in the country. Is this what you wanted to do when you grow up?
No, not exactly. I think I wanted to be a professional baseball player when I grew up, but when I graduated college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. To be honest, I just kind of right place at the right time, kind of fell into this, and things worked out well.
Nice. And that was what? University of Illinois Champaign?
University of Illinois Champaign, class of 1989.
Nice. What you took bachelor in advertising?
I have a bachelor in advertising, a degree which I never touched upon at all. I went straight into pretty much straight. I actually sold computers for a couple years out after college, and then went right into the restaurant business.
And you've got it, but you got the degree in your pocket.
I do.
It's ready
yes.
to go.
Yes.
Let me ask you. So, you managed that Sports Corner, one of the bars across from Wrigley? I
did. I spent about 5 years working at Cubby Bear, and they also own Sports Corner, which is right across from Wrigley Field on Addison and Sheffield.
How'd that come about? You just out of school?
I had quit my computer job and was just bumming around. I lived in the neighborhood, so I started as a doorman, and it's the kind of place where if you could count and you were responsible, within 6 months they gave you the keys. So that's kind of what happened. And started bartending and managing, and got in that situation where I was making a lot of money and having a lot of fun. So stayed there for probably a little bit longer than I should have, but had a really good time doing it.
And something we can talk about later, but you pretty much went full circle all the way from Wrigley to opening up Bacardi at the Park. I did.
I must confess, I grew up in the south side of Chicago as a Cub fan. And had a good time working in the Wrigley Field area. My father was a Cub fan, so I guess that's how I ended up being a Cub fan. But now, at this point, with our partnership with the White Sox, full-blown 100% White Sox fan.
And I'm sure you took some grief being a Cub fan on the south
I've
side.
been beaten up both ends, but coming and going. Growing up and now changing sides. So I'm used to it.
Nice. Being in the industry that long, I'm sure you've seen quite a few changes. One typically that I ask a lot of people about, and I'm sure you've seen, is technology.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell me about that?
I mean, technology is it's taken over, front of the house, back of the house. Every part of the industry is something to do with technology. I mean, we've seen times where the electricity has gone off and the credit card system has gone down, and it's like the most crippling thing in the world to have to revert back to the knuckle buster, credit card machines and stuff like that. And even in the customer service aspect of it, technology is really taking a big role. Now we're in a situation where if someone doesn't like something you're doing in your restaurant, they can go to the internet immediately. They don't have to leave the restaurant. They can get on their phone and go on Yelp or a million other websites and slam you and badmouth you right there. So it's really technology is there's a lot of pluses, there's a lot of minuses, and but it's definitely changed the way we do business for sure.
I mean, it's taken the steps where some restaurants are offering wine lists on an iPad. Mm-hmm. They're bringing an iPad to your table. I think that kind of technology is really neat, though. I think the more information that people can get, and the more you can tell them at the table, it's fun. It's fun, for the same reason people like to play with an iPad at home. They like to play with it at your restaurant table. It's interactive, and it gives them a little information. So I think that's really, that's a trend that's really fantastic. Other changes that I'm sure you have seen change is things with labor laws, human resource departments now. What can you tell me about that, of how things have changed?
I can't tell you anything about that. That's nothing at all.
So then it's working.
I would have to kill you. No. I mean, it's a different business. It was always very much a mom and pop kind of a business, and it was a lot looser with relationships and jokes and those kind of things. And now we have really entered into a more litigious time where people see opportunity to sue people, and it is dangerous. It's not as loose of a business anymore. It's much more professional, which is the way it should be. There's a lot more danger of sexual harassment and lawsuits and stuff like that. So it really is a more professional work atmosphere, front to back.
So bottom line, there's guidelines in place for all the things that were.
There's guidelines and there's rules, and whereas before it was really, you're in a situation where there's bars, late nights, alcohol. It was a very loose business with a lot of fun and extracurricular activities, which just you can't do anymore. It really is a much more professional atmosphere.
Yeah. Especially for, to narrow it down to the sports bars, but the trends have changed. I mean, a sports bar was a bar that had a TV, and now there's and it's all the better. But the trends have gone I've noted, from beer to hot dogs. Now you get martinis and steaks at a sports bar.
Sure, and now you have, gastropubs, where they have, almost fine dining chefs in the kitchen. We have a chef at Lux Bar, which is our bar concept, who came to us from 160 Blue and trained at Charlie Trotter's. Michael McDonald is his name, a very talented individual in a bar setting. So it's really bringing comfort food to a new level and bringing it to the masses in a place where you can spend $15 for an entree instead of $50.
Yeah. So now we're first up at Sports Corner, then you came to the Gibsons Restaurant Group, which I should mention was founded in 1989 by Steve Lombardo and Hugo Raleigh.
Correct.
How did that come about? You left Sports Corner.
I was introduced to Steve Lombardo, and I was thinking about opening my own place after having worked in the Wrigleyville area for 5 years. And his advice was don't do that because you don't know what you're doing, which he was probably 100% correct. So he offered me an opportunity to come work at Gibsons as an assistant manager for the earth-shattering salary of $500 a week, which at that time, even at that time, back in 1996, it was, the waiters were making $500 a night. So it was kind of a challenging position. Plus, coming from an atmosphere where I was bartending and managing and making a lot more money, it was kind of a rough cut, but an excellent opportunity to learn. It's like being paid to go to school, basically.
Yeah, especially in those two gentlemen.
Absolutely. And Steve and Hugo are two very different personalities. Steve was very gregarious and outgoing and very much the front of house face of things, and Hugo is the operations genius. And I don't use that word very often, but truly, learned everything I know from Hugo. So.
And they were pretty much pioneers. I like to use the word, or people like to use the word, resurgence, because they had Sweetwater, and then Rush Street kind of changed a little bit, and then they were pioneers in bringing Gibsons back.
Right. Steve had Sweetwater, and it had finished its run. It was a really popular place at one point, and was closing. And he had met Hugo. Hugo had come from New York with kind of a different skill set, more of a corporate background, Dial Corporation, and he actually was the general manager of Tavern on the Green in New York. And they got together, and Steve still had the lease on the space, and they looked at Morton's, which was across the street on State Street, and said, let's kind of do what Morton's does, but let's do everything much, much better.
Nice, and it goes without saying that they've been voted and noted best steakhouse by countless publications and reviews. So then after Gibson's, there was an opportunity to open up right next door?
Right, that was pretty fortunate for me because I was the only assistant manager in the place, and the lease came up on Hamburger Hamlet, which was next door to Gibson's, and so Steve and Hugo decided to take over the space and do kind of a seafood complement to Gibson's Steakhouse, which became Hugo's Frog Bar and Fish House.
And all of this has now become a flourishing restaurant group. And there's a few to mention, so if you can tell me a little bit about it, even though they're different locations. But now we have Gibson's Rosemont and Gibson's Oak Brook. Right,
and in 2000, I was given the opportunity to go out to Rosemont and open the second Gibson's Steakhouse. And that's a place which is very near and dear to my heart. an awful lot of the people that I hired there 13 years ago are still there. I mean, it's very much a family atmosphere and just a great restaurant. So we did that in 2000.
And now Oakbrook.
Right, and well, I mean, in between there, we also did Hugo's Frog Bar in Naperville in 2004, and it's hard to believe that's been there almost 9 years now, but that's in right downtown Naperville, and then we came back and we did Lux Bar in Cortino, and finally Oakbrook. Gibsons Oakbrook was the third Gibsons, which opened in 2010.
What can you tell me about the theme of Lux Bar?
Lux Bar is your neighborhood bar. It just happens to be in one of the most exclusive, richest neighborhoods in the world. It's beautiful, terrazzo floors, brass rails, brass going up and down the steps. The bathrooms are nicer than most places' dining rooms. It's just a gorgeous place, but it has that, like I said, that comfort food kind of a menu. Craft cocktails, handcrafted cocktails. They make their own simple syrup, and they make their own grenadine, and they make a lot of their own mixers and stuff like that there.
And then we've got Cortino's Pizzeria and Wine Bar is the description of it. Right,
where the wine is cheaper than water. That's the slogan. And Cortino is an unbelievable success story at this point. On a Saturday night they run roughly 1,500 people through the doors. Low check average does check average about $20 a head, and it does almost $10 million a year in sales. So you do the math on how many people that takes to do those kind of numbers.
Nice. Well, the proof's in the pudding there. And then we've got. Tell me, I know something. We talked about earlier. Dear to your heart, Bacardi at the Park.
Yeah,
White Sox.
Bacardi at the Park was an interesting thing. We were contacted by the White Sox a couple years ago, and they had across 35th Street they had kind of dead space between two escalators that was being used for nothing, and we talked about it and kicked it around back and forth, and we figured out how to get about 9,000 square foot of workable space between the beams. There's lots of big beams in odd places. Like I said, two escalators going up the back end of it. And just kind of shoehorned it into the space and made it into something that they didn't have around the ballpark there, which was a first-class sports bar.
So people that are watching out, do you have to have a ticket? I mean, if you have a ticket for the game...
No, you don't have to. You don't have to have a ticket to go to Bacardi at the Park. You can go there for any Sox game. There's 78 HD big screen TVs throughout the place. Just a great place to watch any sporting event. Great place to go before and after a Sox game. Fantastic food. That's the one thing that people don't realize is the food is unbelievable.
As all of in the group are. What about RL? Classified Modern City Club?
Yeah. RL is our smallest place, probably our most beautiful room. The walls are full of Mr. Lauren's personal artwork, about $3 million worth of his personal artwork. Very comfortable, overstuffed banquettes. Definitely a place for the ladies who lunch during the week. Definitely a place to see and be seen. A favorite of Oprah, Jennifer Aniston when she's in town. A lot of celebrities love to flock to that place. But again, it's a 78-seat restaurant. When we took it over, it was doing about $1.5 million a year and losing $1 million a year. And now it's a thriving business that does about $7 million in sales a year.
Nice. To mention, I know you mentioned Hugo's Naperville also, but now there's a Hugo's in the Rivers Casino in Des Plaines.
Yes, the Bacardi at the Park and Hugo's at the casino opened almost simultaneously within a few months of each other, and that's been another great success story. It's another smaller venture for us, smaller space. It's actually Hugo's Frog Bar and Chop House, so it's more steak than seafood. And since the Rivers Casino has been just wildly successful, so too is Hugo's Frog Bar, and they're doing a great job there, and the food's wonderful, and I have nothing but great things to say about that place.
Yeah. Well, the invitations must be there to go to other cities, but for right now, it's just the Chicagoland area only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's always a challenge to find the right people, and it's hard for our ownership even to trust enough to leave people alone in Oak Brook and Rosemont. They're very proud of the name. They're very, very, it has a lot of cachet. We've never closed a restaurant, and we never will. We're going to be very, very cautious about making the right decision about where to go and who to put in charge of each restaurant.
And all this success doesn't happen by accident, but I know one of the things that's important, if you could tell us about the designation by the USDA, about the USDA Gibsons Prime Angus beef.
Yeah, this is something we managed to pull off a few years ago, and that was our executive chef, our corporate executive chef, Randy Wadner, worked very hard on this with the people at Stockyards Packing to get our own USDA designation of Gibson's Prime Angus beef. So we have our own spec. Our beef comes out of southeast Minnesota, Windham, Minnesota, to be exact, is where the plant is. So we found that this was the best way to ensure that we were always going to serve the highest quality beef. The steak's going to look the same every time. It's going to be the same thickness and the same width. You're not going to get one steak on a plate that's very tall and one that's very flat and skinny. So all of our cattle are come from the same area, from the same breed. They're all Black Angus, and it works for us. It really is it's a unique program. Nobody else in the country has their own USDA designation. There is someone in that plant who has to stamp that box, USDA Gibson's Prime Angus, every time.
That's huge. I mean, like you said, it's the only one in the country. There's a cut on the menu called a WR. Can you tell me about that?
WR Chicago Cut is named after Chicago Tribune columnist William Rice, who was a food columnist for the Tribune for many years, and he had said that Chicago needed its own cut because there was a Kansas City cut and a New York sirloin. Chicago needed its own cut, so we took the bone-in ribeye, which is sometimes called a cowboy cut or cowboy chop, and named it the Chicago Cut in his honor, WR Chicago Cut.
Okay, so another trademark thing that people, Gibson's Group is famous for is the desserts. Because they're so small?
Yes, they're tiny. They're minuscule.
Because why?
They're giant, and it kind of goes along with our overall philosophy of sharing, and it's a spectacle when the 5-pound piece of carrot cake comes out on the tray with a big giant knife stuck through the center of it, and people ooh and ah. But that also, when it gets to the table, they all can kind of dig in and share it, and I'll have a piece of it. And one piece of carrot cake is going to serve 6 people. So yeah, on the menu you see it, and it says $14, but that comes out to be $2 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice
good stuff.
Right. It's economical and it's delicious.
The restaurant business obviously is a tough business to get in. People say it's the easiest one to get in. It's even easier to get out. But one thing that you can have the quality of food and a beautiful room and all that, but service is probably the number one thing of presenting and all that. What can you tell me about the service and what makes it so good?
Well, I mean, we prefer to call it hospitality. That's one of our 3 tenets for success is quality, hospitality, and what's the other one?
Service.
Value. Thank you. Value is the last one. That's what we're talking about with the desserts was value. But it is the most important thing that we do is hospitality. We know that the kitchen's going to provide unbelievable, high quality, high value food. Service, we never say no. That's something that we teach people from the minute that they start at a Gibson's restaurant is the customer's always right, even when he's wrong.
Other amenities, if you will, private parties available at all the locations?
Yes.
All the restaurants?
Yes. There's a small room at the casino, and not really one at RL. I mean, we've done a few parties for Oprah and the like, but
who's she?
She's got a little show, something like this.
Show. She's a busy lady.
Yeah, she's a busy lady. She's got a whole station, not just a show.
But anyways, the private parties are available at all the locations.
Yes, and that's we take great pride in that as well because we feel like that experience is just like being in the dining room. That's what we try to do in our private space as well to make it feel as much like an a la carte experience as possible for your guests.
That's great because people not to equate banquet food, but that they're, like you said, they're getting great quality food and service at Gibsons.
We want the experience to be just like being in a dining room.
What suggestions? I mean, you have restaurant business has changed, I believe, for that matter as well. Where it used to be just something people got into temporarily. You know, I'm on my way to paying for college. I'm doing this, but it's a career-oriented industry now. What would you tell somebody that wants to get into it now?
I mean, I personally would tell them to stay in school and get an advanced degree and keep going to school as long as your parents will pay for you to go to school. Yeah. It's a very, very hard business, and I think many people get into the business because they think it's easier than it looks, or it looks very easy, and it's just not as easy as it looks. And you know, you really got to be willing to kiss butt in this business, and especially in this day and age. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're probably in the wrong business. But I would say I would say anybody who thinks they want to be in this business should spend a little time. It depends on what you want to do. If you want to be a chef, then you should spend some time being a line cook, or even start being a dishwasher. If you feel like you want to own a restaurant or manage a restaurant, you should be a bartender or a server for a little while, because you really have to know what it's like to take care of the customers, to see if this is what you want to do for the rest of your life.
I think that's a great point, because it's the word's right in the answer. It's the service industry. You know, you got to be able to take care of people and not let it bother you. You know.
You cannot take it personally, because people are. We have entered an era where people are very demanding, and rightly so. There's competition everywhere. People should demand excellence. They should demand value. They should demand all these things. But it's a very, very hard business sometimes, and people do take it too personally, and they do get upset. People will yell at you. People will scream at you. You know, whereas I always found that funny. If you're in a doctor's office and your doctor's a half hour late, do you walk in there and start screaming at him?
you hit him with the Time magazine that's 3 years old.
Probably not. I mean, but people get frustrated. You know, people are out trying to have a good time, and sometimes they can't. So you know, I mean, that being said, there are wonderful things about this business as well. There are wonderful events that happen. You see people, you know, having a great time. Joyful times, and creating memories in your restaurant. That's a nice thing too.
And I'm sure you've seen that as long as you've been in the business now, the people, different generations coming and bringing their kids and grandkids and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's great. And we do other events on the side too that are really, really fulfilling. At Oak Brook, we did a partnership with WGN where we gave away an office party to 4 offices that couldn't afford to have one because their businesses were down. And you know, just to talk to those people, you know, during the party, they were so appreciative, and they were so happy to be there, because, you know, they didn't think they were going to be able to have this luxury this year, or they haven't had it for several years because their businesses were not doing well. And we also do every New Year's Day, we, through Catholic Charities, feed some less fortunate people at Gibsons and Hugo's downtown. And there's people there who haven't been in a restaurant in 10 years, 15 years, maybe never. And again, you know, to see the appreciation and to you know, participate in something like that is very gratifying.
So I don't know if you want to share any details, but anything, what's next, or things brewing, or?
There's always something brewing. I would say that Mr. Lombardo has no less than 30 deals going on right now with various other entities, but it's always going to be looking for the right spot, the right place, and having the right deal with the right people involved.
Well, I know some I talked about it, but outdoor dining, to just check online on which locations do have it. I know you're very proud of the outdoor patio at Oak Brook.
Yeah, absolutely. We have about 150 seats out there and a fabulous water feature, outdoor bar, and it really is just a tremendous place to be in the summertime, all year round, but especially in the summertime. Naperville, we built a 50-seat patio out there last year, and of course, you know, downtown on Rush Street, you know, people have fist fights for the seats out there on a nightly basis.
Place to be seen, too.
Absolutely. A place to see and be seen.
Well, I wanted to give you these, and tradition. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh my gosh, what's this?
Some cannolis for you.
What's a cannoli? I'm half Irish, so I don't really know what a cannoli is.
Well, you only need half of that.
Yeah, that's Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here, man. I tell you. So for people who want to find out about the restaurant group, we're going to go to gibsonssteakhouse.com.
Yes, and there's jump sites to all of our other restaurants there.
What do you want to tell me about the season coming up with Bacardi? Anything special opening day we do, or
opening day is a lot of fun. We usually have WGN News is usually out there, and a couple the Score Radio usually does a live broadcast. A lot of fun. I think the White Sox could have another great year. They've got they were in first place most of last year, so we had a wonderful year at Bacardi, and we expect big things out of the White Sox and the year.
Nice. Well, since you're on the sports tip roll, anything for the Cubbies?
I think they're in deep trouble.
Yeah. I'm a Cub fan. I've been suffering my whole life.
I think they're deep, but they're going in the right direction. They're doing a lot of the right things they have to do. They're rebuilding the organization and the philosophy, and it needed some redoing. So it might be another 5 years, Vince, but I think it'll be okay eventually.
Well, it's been over 100 already, so
yeah,
I think we can wait.
What do you got?
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I will. You got any favorite restaurant stories you want to share?
Favorite restaurant stories I want to share. I don't have many clean ones, Vince. Yeah. I don't know if I could tell you too many.
Well, thanks for being here. I mean, just running out of time here, running a little bit longer or shorter than I thought, but I think it was great having you on the show. I tell you, you're truly respected and a great testimonial to people that want to be in the industry and the Gibsons Restaurant Group. I mean, they're all busy. All quality food. Well,
it's been a lot of fun, and like you said, we have three of the top 100 grossing restaurants in the country. Actually, three Gibsons are plus Cortino has reached that group now as well, and they're busy for a reason. Like you said, we concentrate on hospitality, value, and quality. We try to do it every day and try to do it better than everybody else. We take a lot of pride in what we do.
And just one more footnote about Cortino's, because I love it. I love them all, but. It's Italian, but it's smaller in portions.
It's small plate Italian. I mean, there's a Sala Maria, which we make all the meats in house, the Gabagol, Supersat, all those Italian things that you love so much, with all the cheeses as well. So there's a Sala Maria up front. You start your meal with that, olives, all those kind of things. All the wine is imported by the restaurant itself as well. So that's why they're able to offer it at such a tremendous value, and in a tremendous variety as well. Small plate and pizzas as well. Tremendous pizza. A really talented chef there as well, Chef John Coletta, highly respected in the industry.
Okay, well, once again, thank you for being here. If you want to find more information about it, gibsonssteakhouse.com. And, oh, excuse me, I got a phone call here. I'm sorry. Hello? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. I'll get back. That was my friend Patrick Houlihan. I had to take that call. So
very nice.
Thanks for being here.
I'm
sorry I got to leave, though.
You got to go?
Yeah, enjoy the cannolis, and thanks for being on the show. And
should I just eat them here?
If you like. Enjoy, and happy New Year. Sorry, I got to go.